Welcome to the PKU Life Podcast with Kevin Alexander. Today is January 21st, 2019. Well, thanks for joining me on today's show. I apologize for being a little bit behind on this episode. I originally intended to release it last week, but I've been a little bit busy. I have a brief little announcement to make. Recently, I joined the board of directors of a new group called the Louisiana Metabolic Disorders Coalition. It's a group that's going to advocate for and educate about a wide range of metabolic disorders, not just PKU, and I'm excited to do that here in my home state of Louisiana. In all of my global travels and travels across the country, I haven't really had a chance to connect with others with PKU and other similar disorders here in my own state, so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. But for today's show, in the age in which we live, it's easy to forget just how much social media has changed our world. My relationship with today's guest is a perfect example of how we should not take it for granted that we can forge friendships with people from across the world. Mark Edwards and I are roughly the same age, but I live in the United States, in Louisiana, and he lives in Wales. We met on social media, but in 2015 we met in real life at the European Society for PKU and Allied Disorders Conference in Berlin. In this episode, Mark and I talk about growing up with PKU in Wales, his adventures in PKU advocacy, and advice he has for teenagers or young adults struggling with the PKU lifestyle. So, PKU community, meet Mark Edwards. So, Mark, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, not a problem. You're welcome. Thank you for asking me. Absolutely.
So, Mark, I'm trying to remember. I know we've been friends on social media for quite a few years now. Do you remember how long it's been? It's probably, 6 years or so?
It's been a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a long time now.
Yeah, and so we were fortunate enough that in 2015 at the ESPKU conference, we were able to meet in person, which is always great.
Always good.
So let's just kind of get started by talking just a little bit about you. Where are you from?
I'm from Wales in the UK.
Yeah, and what's the PKU experience like over there?
Well, where I live, it's a small town called Towyn, and I'm basically the only adult with PKU around here. There's another toddler, I say toddler, isn't it? There's another child with PKU in the next town, but you can't actually have an adult conversation with anyone like that. But yes, for most of my life, I've just been on my own, really.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, until I kind of got connected to the PKU community, and that was like 7 years ago. I mean, I didn't know anybody else with PKU.
That's it, yeah.
And I think the first people that I met in fact, I interviewed them in my last episode. Casey Singletary, met her and her son Will when I was sitting in a clinic in South Louisiana. And they were the very first people I met in the PKU community, besides my doctors and dietitians and all that.
Yeah, that's it.
So when was the first chance you had to start meeting other people with PKU?
Properly, like socializing and all that, is when I started going to the conferences. Like the Berlin conference was my first one, and get to meet people properly like that.
Yeah, and how do you think it's different? You grow in, because I can definitely relate to this because I was this way myself. So you grow up without, knowing anybody else with PKU, and you're kind of doing it on your own, trying to do the best you can. And then suddenly you start meeting other people with PKU, and it's like, it's almost, at least for me, it's kind of like the life before and the life after. There was PKU by myself, and now there's PKU with other people. How's it different, you think?
Yeah, as soon as you meet somebody with the same condition as you, going through the same battles as you and all that, it's like a whole weight has been lifted off your shoulders. No, it's as if you've got somebody who knows what you're going through and is able to talk to you properly and all that. But before that, when I was on my own and all that, it felt as if I was like the strange one, like not really socializing with people and all that. But the reason because of that was because you were restricted in where you could go, but you didn't want to hold people back.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so let's take a few steps back now. I kind of want to talk about what life was like for you growing up with PKU.
Okay.
So I don't know if I've ever had a conversation. I think I've had a conversation with you about this, but I just can't remember. So was there ever a time, was it hard for you as a kid following the diet and drinking formula? Was that hard as a kid and as a teenager?
No, for me, it was quite simple to stick to the diet. If people were going off into town for dinner or something like that, for lunch, mean, I would know what my limits are. So you sort of know from a really early age, really. I think the only problem was that other people weren't able to accept it. So they had a bit of an issue themselves, if that makes sense.
Was that hard for you? I mean, I can understand that, you know, here you have this condition and you always feel like an outsider. And then you try to go eat with someone and they don't understand and kind of make you feel even like you are an outsider. Is that hard to deal with?
It can be, but well, obviously when I was younger, I probably read too deep into it, and I felt really bad myself. But now as I've gone a lot older, I'm like, hey, get on with it, you know. I have to deal with it and just carry on, sort of thing.
So when you were younger, did your family kind of help you from a young age kind of understand what PKU was and how important it was for you to follow the diet?
They've always helped me. They've never held anything back from me. They thought if this had going to happen, if whatever happens from not sticking to the diet, then let him know. They never kept anything away from me.
Yeah.
I was always in the know with it more.
How did they help you as you were, young adult, teenager, or whatever, and you're transitioning to young adult and you're kind of getting out and start working and everything? How do they help you, I guess, transition? How do they help you kind of learn to take care of PKU on your own?
They'd always make sure I always took my formula with me wherever I went. I mean, I do that now still. I do that on my own now, which is good. But now and again, you do tend to forget it. But you always make up for it later on, sort of thing. Yeah. But it's just learning curve, really, isn't it?
Now, did you ever have a period where you were either off diet or kind of like too relaxed on your diet? Did you ever go through anything like that?
I do relax my diet now and again, but I always get back onto it and be strict again with myself.
Yeah.
But nobody's perfect. You can't stick to the diet and just stick to it all the time. You do tend to come off a little bit.
What do you, when you talk, because I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you're active you got a Facebook page and you're kind of doing some traveling now and advocating for PKU. When you talk to teenagers or adults who are struggling with the diet, what do you say to them?
Just keep at it. Things will get tough, and it's then where you need more determination to keep on the diet. And if anyone needs to talk, then they know where to find help.
Yeah, well, that's
whether that's on Facebook with us or with the medical professionals, isn't it?
Now, so as you kind of started kind of growing up and transitioning into adulthood and you started kind of getting out into the workforce, did you have a hard time, I guess, when you started working, dealing with PKU in the workplace?
I haven't, no. Fortunately, I live in a really small town, so everyone here knows me anyway. But the people who don't know me, who've come into the workforce, they see me with my formulas now, and they actually last night, one of our new members of staff, he thought I was a really big gym goer. I was on the shakers, and once I explained everything to him, he was like, "Wow, sorry about that. Sorry, dude." And I was like, "Yeah, Karen, it's fine. And I'm glad you thought I was a gym goer, just lacking muscle."
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about this now. Now that you're, kind of working and, you're as an adult trying to manage PKU, do you have any frustrations? What are the biggest challenges you feel like you face living this PKU lifestyle?
I know it sounds really stupid, but we're just trying to find the time to mix the formulas properly. Fortunately now there's you've got companies making other products like peanut butter bars. They're amazing for when you're busy on the go. Little things like that, more developments like that is a good thing.
Yeah. So let's talk now about, I know in the last few years you've kind of gotten involved in PKU Advocacy, and I know you have the Facebook page that you operate. Tell me a little bit, how did you kind of start getting out there and advocating for PKU and traveling a little bit?
Well, I'll be honest, there's this one video I saw on YouTube, which was one of your videos. Is it PKU My Life, or My Story?
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I thought, that's good. I want to start being like Kevin. But then when I met you in Berlin, to me that's like meeting a superstar.
I'm blushing now, man.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. Honestly, me getting involved in PKU advocacy is like I never ever in a million years thought I'd be. I mean, I'm the guy behind the camera. That's what I do for work, right? I'm used to being behind the camera, having to be quiet and everything. I'm not used to being in front of the camera. I mean, I worked in news, and I was used to watching people in front of the camera. I'm not used to being in front of the camera. I'm still comfortable, kind of in the dark, in the shadows, kind of like, hey, don't pretend like I'm not here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's been good for me personally, just because I was not comfortable talking about PKU myself. I mean, I talked about it as little as I could. I mean, you have to, because when you're trying to explain to people, well, this is why I haven't eat this certain way, you have to talk about it a little bit, but I just wasn't comfortable, sharing that much of myself. And then, I mean, the best part about kind of getting in that world now is getting to meet people all over the world, and like getting to meet people like you, I mean, we connected on social media, and we were able to meet in Berlin, I mean, a guy from Louisiana and a guy from Wales meet in Berlin,
It's totally crazy.
So let's, tell me now, I know you've, was it a few months ago, last year sometime? I know you were able to travel and speak a little bit.
Yeah, that was actually a few months ago. I travelled with a low-protein food company and done a talk for them over in the Venice conference.
Was that the ESPKO conference this last year?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So what was that like for you?
Very nerve-wracking. A couple of glasses of red wine actually helped.
So what did you talk about?
Just how the new products have actually totally transformed my life, really. Yeah. And how easy things are now with them, and how the taste have developed as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask this. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but how old are you, Mark?
35.
35. Okay, so we're about the same age. I'm a couple years older than you, so I'm really ancient. So I mean, obviously, growing up in the 80s, that how there were no options. Like, I don't know about you, but I was very fortunate because in the state of Louisiana has always had this formula assistance program. And, and I don't know if it's still around or not, because I get my formula different ways now. But at the time there was a formula assistance program, but there was only one option that you could have, and it was not tasty.
No, definitely.
And we didn't even have low pro food options, really, because it's not like today where you can get online and order the stuff and get it. I mean, obviously you could have it shipped to you back then. It was just a lot more difficult, and I was just fortunate that I could eat. I didn't have to have, my tolerance was a little bit higher, so I didn't have to have as much low pro food. I could just do vegetables and stuff like that.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely changed. So let's talk about the Facebook page.
Okay.
Tell me what the name of the page is again, and I'll put a link in the show notes, by the way.
Okay, thank you. The Facebook page is PKU Awareness UK and Ireland. So basically, we try and raise a lot of awareness about the PKU condition. We've actually been invited back to the local food and drink festival this year.
Nice.
To do that, we get a load of low protein food companies to support us as well, and we're always grateful for that.
So I guess, in your page, I guess you're not just trying to reach out to others in the PKU community, but actually just raise awareness in general of PKU. Is that right?
Yeah, we're actually reaching out to everyone, people with the condition, people without the condition.
So what is, when you're talking to other people, or you're on your page, or you're sharing information, what have you found is the when you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand PKU, a lot of times there's a moment where they just kind of, they kind of get it. What do you share with them to try to help them understand?
Well, I'll use an example from last year's Food and Drink Festival we attended. We had people come up to us and say, no, it's this diet. And we're like, no, this is the PKU diet. It's a low-protein diet. And they go, oh, right, okay. Then actually a lot of people actually go back to the internet and they actually look up about it. So it might be something little like what we're doing, but it's having a bigger effect. People are actually going out to look for the condition now and find out more about it.
Yeah. So you've been able to connect with, the PKU page is called PKU UK and Ireland Awareness. Remind me again.
Yes, PKU Awareness UK and Ireland.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a minute. There's a lot of on whether it's on social media or Facebook in general. There's a lot of kind of global groups. There's a lot of US specific groups. Let's talk about a little bit about PKU in the UK. What are some of the unique challenges you guys have as far as raising awareness?
With the raising the awareness is just trying to get people to understand that a PKU is not like a diabetic condition, illness, or gluten-free diet. It's something totally different, and it's it takes a lot more. Not saying diet being gluten-free, you don't need as much attention, but there's needs. Being on a PKU diet, you need a lot more attention to what's actually in the product. If that makes sense.
Yeah. What about some of the challenges you guys have as far as, because I know we have completely different health systems and all that. So is it, for those of us in the, US who may not know what PKU in the UK is like, are you guys able to, access your clinics easily, get access to formula easily or low protein foods? How does that work?
Yeah, clinics are really easy to access. Myself, I have checkups every 6 months. With the clinic team over in Manchester in the UK. With the low protein foods, we actually get those on the NHS prescriptions. So over in England, PKU patients would have to pay, I think it's £100 yearly subscription, where then they'll get the prescription foods sent to them for free. And then over in Wales, where I am, I actually don't have to pay the subscription, so I don't have to pay anything for my prescription foods. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk a little bit now about, a lot of times when I travel and interview people for videos, some of the projects I'm doing these days, we kind of talk about what our greatest hopes, aspirations, dreams are as far as PKU. For me, for example, I really want to see a home blood feed monitor so that we can, test our levels and get like immediate results. Other people, it may be new therapies or access to existing therapies. Other people are focused on, researching a cure. What's the biggest thing that you want to see happen with PKU in your lifetime?
Pretty much the same. There's a lot going on in the UK at the moment to try and get Kuvan here. Of course, the UK government are refusing to fund it. But what I'm thinking myself is, if they're not going to fund the Kuvan, what would they be like with the PegPal?
Yeah. So for you, the biggest thing is just being able to get access to what has already been developed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So, what do you have? Do you have any trips upcoming anytime soon? You going to any more conferences that you know of yet?
Nothing's planned as of yet, but things can change very quickly.
Yeah.
What they usually do.
Do you know where the next ESPKU conference is?
I do. I believe it's in Istanbul, Turkey.
Oh wow. Well, thank you for joining me today, Mark.
Well, thank you for asking me, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I will put the link to the group in the show notes. And I guess the last question that I would ask you is, I kind of asked you this a little bit before, but in your life before PKU, not knowing anyone else, and now you've been able to go to all these conferences, what has been, I guess, the greatest kind of moment or memory that you've had so far of getting to finally be able to meet other people with PKU?
Just meeting other people, really. It's just like I was saying before, being the only one with PKU in this area, you feel really alone. So just being able to meet new people and to get to socialise with them, that's a big thing, really.
Well, it's something I can personally definitely relate to, and I know that a lot of people around the world, probably in a situation just like yours, where they're in a rural area that may not be in a large city, where there's a lot of other people with PKU, so they definitely can relate to that sense of loneliness. But the great thing is, social media has its frustrations from time to time, but the great thing is that we've been able to meet each other.
Point.
Yeah, we've been able to meet each other,
Yeah, it does have this good points, the social media.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you, Kev.
Thanks for joining me on today's show. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Links for all those are in the show notes. And I will see you next time.